Hello, welcome to another day of Sonic and Iconic, our Black Friday week of virtual art galleries. I'm Joe Kleon, along with
Anastasia Pantsios.
and we're so glad to have you back. We are getting into another night of great photos. If you missed our first few nights with classic superstars that we did on Monday, country on Tuesday, Michael Stanley on Wednesday, and heavy metal last night, you can find links to those online. You can watch those videos. In the entire week, we're going to present you with over 1,100 photos. You can also find in the descriptions information to order any photo that you see. If you have any special requests, we'll take them. If we've shot the band and you want a photo of them, we will find it for you.
Absolutely.
Everything is printed and shipped out by our good friends at NEO Pro Imaging, best printer in Cleveland. Make sure you check them out at neoproimaging.com. And tonight we are going to be talking about pop, alternative, and hip-hop, kind of throwing three genres together to one giant category, and just really a plethora of performers. Some great shots Anastasia took of Adam Ant all the way to 311. Pop stars like Ariana Grande, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift. Also singer-songwriters and performers like Bjork and Billy Idol. Black Keys, Blondie, Britney Spears, I think I mentioned her already. All kinds of great artists. What are some of your favorite pop alternative artists that you've shot, Anastasia?
Over the years, the Rhythmics is one of my favorites. Blondie, I really loved.
Your Elvis Costello shots are great.
Yeah, Elvis Costello, he was okay. Gwen Stefani was terrific. I really enjoyed her. It's a category that had a lot of women in it, which when you saw in the 80s, a lot of women really starting to make a mark and have hit records and become really big. So that was like really important too.
And a lot of the hip-hop stuff that I've shot in the last 10 years or so with Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar and also Snoop Dogg and Tech Nine, Lil Wayne. I have a lot of hip-hop stuff.
Yeah, I have some too. Curtis Blow, Run DMC, some of the classic artists from the 80s.
And your favorite performer, Leif Garrett.
Leif Garrett.
You did a lot of work with him.
I did. He was here all the time. every other week, it seemed like a radio station was bringing him into town.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, Miley Cyrus, Morrissey, My Chemical Romance, Nine Inch Nails, Pearl Jam. It's a really wide variety of artists. So we're going to get into it, get our faces off the screen, get the artist faces on the screen, and make sure that you contact us or go to the pages where you can order photos. Everything will be in alphabetical order. Very easy to order, no matter what size you want. If you don't want to pay shipping, you can just go to NEO Pro Imaging downtown and pick it up yourself.
And they're very fast.
They're very fast. And when you go in there to pick up a photo, they're really friendly. They're really friendly.
But wear your mask.
We're trying to make it as easy for you as possible to get these photos, do your Christmas shopping from home, and also help out some struggling artists, namely us, and a nice family business, NEO Pro Imaging. So let's get into it now. Pop, alternative, and hip-hop. Another night of virtual galleries here at Sonic and Iconic. Okay, let's switch gears and get into the photos. This is pop, also alternative and hip-hop. And we start off at the beginning of the alphabet with some of your Adam Ant shots.
Yeah, Adam Ant was a performer who kind of was on the cusp of pop and new wave and the whole new romantic movement in the 80s. He had a very teeny bopper fan base, and I saw him a couple of times, once at Public Hall and at the Agora. And at the Agora, it was interesting because the audience was largely underage teenage girls. So you had all these young girls up front by the stage, and you had like a row of parents standing in the back. So his appeal was definitely to the young.
Very cool shots. A lot of nice shots of Adam Ant. Then we move on to Allison Chains.
Allison Chains. Why are they here again?
I don't know. We just talked about them.
We just talked about them. But, they're a band that kind of straddle different worlds, metal, grunge, sort of modern heavy music. And I was lucky to get them because they seldom toured. Lane Staley really couldn't leave Seattle because he had to be near his connection for drugs.
Their two Cleveland shows were great, opening for Van Halen on the first tour and then the Agora show on the Dirt tour.
Yeah, but very sad ending to that band. They really petered out because they couldn't tour.
Yeah, they've done some decent stuff with their newest singer. But never been able to reach the pinnacles they did before.
Classic sound. I mean, they established the sound with Lane Staley.
Yeah, they did. They're still out there doing it though. We move into Ariana Grande.
She's
that's one of my most stolen photos. I've had that stolen by a lot of publications. That's from The Q, and that is from back, I think, about 5 years ago. Yeah, around 2015. One of my favorite pop shots. That's taken from the soundboard. with a nice long lens on a tripod. Why are we advancing? There we go. Audio Slave.
Audio
Nice.
Slave. You know, I never got to see Soundgarden. I think 3 times I had passes to go and I didn't get back to town in time or something, but I did catch Audio Slave at the Agora, and Chris Cornell was one of my favorite singers. Really was glad I got to see them.
Yeah, really a great voice. Such a tragedy when we lost him.
Yeah.
Bauhaus?
Bauhaus I saw at Nautica, and you know, they were one of the great classic bands of underpinning that whole goth new wave sound. They were using strobes, and I just got lucky on that shot.
That's a great shot. And it's a really diverse gallery when you go from Bauhaus to Bieber.
Yeah.
That was the first time I shot Bieber, 2013 at the Q. Man, I sold a lot of Bieber photos. I gotta say that, man. I loved shooting them. That's from 2016 at the Q. That's a photo that's been stolen a lot by a lot of different places. We move into Billy Idol. Nice
Billy
shots
Idol,
there.
you know, one of the big 80s performers who had a whole bunch of hits back then, and you know, he also straddled several sons, but he was a real showman too.
Did you ever shoot any of his pre-solo stuff with Generation X?
No.
No? Wonder if they ever played Cleveland.
I don't know.
Nice shots
a lot
there.
Of those bands did not.
Nice shot with Billy Idol and Steve Stevens. That's great.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Buzzard.
There he is at WMMS doing his classic, you know, mouth lifted on one side thing. That was Bjork when she was with the Sugar Cubes before she was Bjork, and they played at Peabody's Down Under.
She looks really, really young.
Oh, she was. I mean, this was the late 80s, early 90s. I don't remember the exact date, but it was early.
First time I shot the Black Keys, 2014 at the Q, and then we go forward and love the Ghoul shirt, 2019 at the Q. That was from last fall, around end of September, I believe. And there's another shot from that September 2019 show. Blink 182, Travis Barker, 2011. That's from Blossom. Boy, they're a popular band. People just love them. Then we move into Blondie. I love your Blondie shots.
That was actually not a music hall. There was another little theater that's in that building too that's not frequently used that they played. And of course she had a very dramatic stage presence. I mean, she photographed so beautifully because of her bone structure, her wide cheeks and all that. It's hard to take a bad shot of her.
A great shot with her looking right at you with the lights behind her. Very, very nice.
And that was there was a little used clothing vintage store upstairs from Record Revolution on Coventry Road, and she was taken shopping there by a promo guy from her label because she always liked to wear vintage clothes.
Very nice.
And that was, I think, music hall.
How many times did you shoot Blondie?
Oh, probably 4 or 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's another one from the clothing store?
Yeah.
And then we move on to Britney Spears. That's from the Q 2011. I knew that was going to be from the soundboard, and I was just really excited about shooting Britney, so I rented a 400mm $10,000 lens. It was gigantic. I was terrified I was going to break it. On a big, huge tripod from the soundboard, and I got some really nice shots. I've always loved that one because it looks like she's on the beach rather than at the Q with the sun setting. That's one of my cool Britney shots. That's another one from the same show. That's a cool shot with the paparazzi and the Marilyn Monroe dress, whole thing. And then we move on to the Cars, Mr. Benjamin Orr.
Cars, Ben Orr. That was backstage at Blossom.
Wow.
Yeah.
And another great shot there,
it was
Ben
on
Orr.
stage at Blossom.
Rick Ocasek.
Rick Ocasek also meditative backstage at Blossom. And there's on stage at Blossom.
These Cheap Trick shots are really great.
Cheap Trick, I think that was at Richfield Coliseum.
Nice shot with the 5-necked guitar.
He had so many different guitars that you could just get amazing shots of him with all these different
The
instruments.
times I shot him, he never got out any of those monster neck guitars. I was a little bummed.
Oh, well.
Great shot of Robin Zander there.
Zander,
Very, very
yeah.
nice. And Rick again with the Les Paul.
Yeah.
Flying V.
And that was backstage at Music Hall.
That's a great picture. That's just a great picture.
He actually asked me backstage to take pictures of him in this shirt, which a fan had made for him. And he had one of the worst managers in the business. And so after the show, we went upstairs, and I had my camera ready. He says, "You can't bring that back here." And I said, "Well, Rick asked me specifically to come take this picture." He goes, "Well, okay, but you can only take pictures of Rick. You can't shoot anybody else." So we go in the dressing room, I take these pictures, and Robin Zander wanders up behind me, and he goes, "Why does everybody always want pictures of Rick? Nobody's interested in anyone else in the band." I go, "You need to talk to Ken Adamany about this."
He just said, because nobody likes you.
Because your manager is Not on the same page.
From Cheap Trick to Chris Brown, that goes back to 2017. I think that might have been at the Q. Coldplay, that's definitely from the
great
Q.
shot.
As he's running through the graffiti on the catwalk, that was from 2017. And I almost didn't put that online because he's a little out of focus just because of all the graffiti and stuff, and I just wasn't sure if I liked it. I posted it on Facebook, and people went crazy over it. And it's been one of my biggest selling photos over the last few years, and just people gush over it, and it was very close to never seeing the light of day. And there's a lot of times like that where I don't like a photo and somebody else likes it, or the
You
opposite.
just never know. And there's Courtney Love. I think that was on stage at Blossom, part of the Lollapalooza tour. A great shot of her when she wasn't complaining, which is what she was doing most of the show. She played about 20 minutes of music. She had about half an hour of bitching.
Hey, Culture Club backstage
Culture
somewhere.
Club, that was at Swingos, the famous
Oh, nice.
Swingos rock and roll hotel that was on the corner of Euclid and 21st, I think, East 21st. And
Would that be early to mid-'80s?
No, 18th. It was on the corner of 18th. This was probably, early 80s.
That's really just a great candid shot.
Yeah.
And then some shots from the show?
Agora. It's interesting. I think I have 3 shots in here, and his look is so changed in each one. I think that was maybe at the Coliseum. I'm not sure where that was at.
What's the one with the headgear? That's later?
The Fez, yeah. Oh, he changed his look all the time. He was very fashion-oriented.
We moved to Cyndi Lauper. That was when she opened for Cher at the Q. That was back in 2014.
And that was, I don't remember where it was at. Maybe she opened to someone at the Coliseum. I'm not sure. I saw her first at the Agora, but that's not from the Agora show.
That's a really early shot, though. Very nice shot.
Yeah, that was from the Agora.
That's a nice one,
That was
too.
when she played the Agora.
Very nice with the lighting back there.
Yeah, that's Dave Edmunds. I think that was at Music Hall. He was in Rock Pile, which are very classic, old school kind of rock and roll band.
David Johansen, that's a great shot.
Who was the singer in the New York Dolls. But as David Johansen on his own, he became really big in Cleveland. WMMS really liked him. And I think that may have been at Music Hall, too. I'm not 100% sure.
MTV played him a lot in the early days.
Yeah.
Demi Lovato, that's from 2014. I believe that might be from Wolstein Center.
Depeche Mode, who are being inducted into, or who were just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the key electropop bands of the 80s. There's probably a lot of their influences that should have been inducted first, but they had sold more records.
That's a great shot.
Yeah.
Another one from 2001,
Martin
Depeche
Gore,
Mode.
yeah.
And we moved to Dave Matthews, a band I shot probably 5 or 6 times, and I love shooting them just because every show, year after year, is completely different. They don't use the same lights and the same stage setups like a lot of bands do tour after tour. Every tour is different, and you'd think that maybe they kind of just stand there and play their proggy kind of, Grateful Dead stuff, but they're very dynamic. I've got some really, really great shots of them, and I've sold a lot of shots of them. They've been very popular. We move on to local favorites, Donnie Iris and the Cruisers.
Out of Pittsburgh. Donnie is from Western Pennsylvania. Most of the members of his band are from Cleveland, though, and they were really, really popular here starting in the 80s and have continued to play here. I mean, they've been opening in almost every Michael Stanley show in the last few years.
And really still bringing it, too. The last show I saw at MGM, they were great. I mean, they were great.
Yes.
Really, really good. Elvis Costello.
Elvis Costello, I think that was at Music Hall. Obviously, that's before he got pudgy. He also had one of the worst managers in the business, a guy named Jake Riviera, who was so abrasive that Elvis Costello was the only act that the Plain Dealer's Jane Scott, who was notorious for just always trying to find the best in any performer, and she did not try to find the best in him. She actually wrote a review once where she talked excessively about the opening act, and then she went, and Elvis Costello also played. And a lot of that had to do with Jake Riviera, because he was just a real piece of work.
She was just such a warm, sweet, wonderful person. You've really got to be a douche if you pissed off Jane Scott.
In fact, I was just talking to an old friend of mine from back in the day, and she was, I don't know why, but she was dating Jake Riviera, and she was telling me about picking him up at the airport and how he crawled into her back seat and laid down because he said the mafia was after him. And when they drove down to Columbus, and every time, say a black Cadillac or Lincoln came by, he would dive down because he thought he was being pursued. I think there was a lot of cocaine at work there.
He should have drove him to the Mafia and dropped him off.
Yeah, really.
Here's Elvis Costello, a shot I took in 2014. He did a solo show. I think it was at the Lakewood Theater, I think. Just him, his guitar, and it was hard to get a good shot because I was shooting from the soundboard and he was always in front of the mic. But I did get a couple of good ones.
Well, that's a little later. I think that's probably, mid 80s. He is starting to put on some weight there. And that's the English Beat that was taken actually up in Toronto. I had a friend who was actually the photographer for a scene. Her name was Linda Woods, and this was her favorite band. So we made a road trip, and we went up there to see them.
Nice.
They were a lot of fun. They had that hit Tenderness that was just so upbeat and happy. And we actually drove back in a horrifying blizzard because you have
that's
to
never
drive
fun.
through Buffalo.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Buffalo can be
but it
real
was
bad.
worth it to see the band. And that's Eno, the legendary producer who started his career with Roxy Music and produced albums for David Bowie and many other people. And that was a picture taken at the hotel. I think it was the Hollenden House, which is no longer there.
I really love this next set of photos of yours of the Eurythmics.
Well, the Eurythmics were both a great musical band and a great visual band. And Annie Lennox just came alive on stage. She was off stage. She was this very mousy, quiet person. I met her a couple of times at WMMS, and you saw her sitting in the lobby. You wouldn't take her to be anything, but when she got on stage, she just packed a punch. And this was when they were headlining at Blossom.
Once again, every photo that you see is for sale. You can look at the description on the Sonic Iconic page, also at joekleon.com, and you can find links to purchase all the photos that we're doing all this week, over 1,100 photos, printed and shipped by NEO Pro Imaging. Check out neoproimaging.com. And concert photos make great, unique Christmas gifts. Everybody has a super fan in the family, and we've got thousands of artists that we have available. If you have any artist requests, you can also post or email and let us know, and we can answer any special requests that you have. Moving on to Fall Out Boy, that's from 2013 at Wolstein Center, and I think that's from the same show as well. 5 Seconds of Summer, that's from The Q. I believe that show was sold out. They're one of those bands that just became huge really, really quick, and you probably in a couple years from now, people will go, who? Flock of Seagulls?
Kind of like this next band.
You ran to see them, didn't
you? They were headlining Blossom.
Flock of Seagulls
Hard
headlined
to
Blossom.
believe, but there was a really funny story about this. He came on stage. Well, they started off the stage with all the smoke, and the band came out in the smoke, and the lights were supposed to come up, and everybody would be in their place. But the problem was that the Blossom stage is vast, and they had fans that were supposed to disperse the smoke just as the lights came up, and it didn't. And so when the lights came up, he was groping around the stage looking for his keyboards. Maybe the hair on the face had something to do with that too, but there was heavy smoke on the stage, and he could not find his way to his keyboards.
Was it a well-sold show with them headlining?
I don't remember.
I can't imagine, even at their heyday with that song on MTV, that they could bring 20,000 people into Blossom.
Well, they may have had 10,000. I don't know.
Did they have strong bands on the bill with them?
I don't remember who was on the bill with them. I mean, sometimes they put two of these bands together, but there were bands like them and the Thompson Twins.
Haircut
and
100.
Howard Jones. Haircut 100 did not get that big, but some of the others did.
Oh, we go to Flogging Molly, Mr. Dave King. That's from House of Blues 2013. Yeah. I loved his work in Fastway back in the day. Did you ever shoot Fastway?
Yes, I did. I have great pictures of him in Fastway when he had long hair.
Supposedly, if you ask him to sign a Fastway album, he gets really pissed off.
Oh, that's too bad.
It is too bad, because that's the great 3 albums that... their first 3 albums. Garbage.
Shirley Manson.
Yes,
yeah.
That's from House of Blues 2013.
Yeah.
It was a pretty dark show. I didn't get many good photos, but I did get that one really good one.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great shot
She
that
Loves
is.
Jezebel, another
awesome.
sort of new wave alternative band that not a lot of people remember, but I did get to shoot them, I think, at Peabody's Down Under.
There's a very influential band back in the day for women rockers.
Yeah. The Go-Go's, and that was at the Agora.
Wow, that's got to be real early days. Look how young.
Yeah,
wow.
Oh yeah, that was, I think, one of the first times they played here.
Very
that
nice.
was them gathered on stage during sound check. They were about to do an interview with Jeff and Flash from WMMS.
Wow, very cool. Grace Potter, that's from House of Blues, probably early 2010s.
Gwen Stefani at, I think, 2005 at the Wallstein Center.
Very
on the
nice.
Harajuku tour.
Wow, those are really nice shots.
Yeah.
Hot Shell Ray, that I believe is from Wallstein Center.
Uh-huh.
Imagine Dragons 2015, I think that's from Nautica. Nice shot of In Excess there.
In Excess, yeah, that was a Blossom. They also headlined Blossom. And, they were a band that they were considered new wave alternative, but they had a unique sound of their own and were very hard to categorize. A lot of people just thought they were straight ahead rock.
Another band I thought really had a unique sound on their own, Jane's Addiction.
Oh, yes.
I shot them a bunch of times.
Yes,
Really became a big fan of the band and a big fan of Peripheral just from seeing them live multiple times. That's from 2010 or 2011 at Nautica, I believe. That's from House of Blues a little bit later, 2015, I think. And
That's
then there's
from
some
Peabody's Down Under, I think, 89.
Peabody's. Wow.
Yeah,
That's a great shot.
Peabody's,
Very
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Those are cool shots.
Yeah, I love those.
There's Jay-Z. That's from The Q 2014. Katy Perry.
That's nice.
That's from The Q. I Love Silhouettes. That also is from 2014. That was the very beginning of the show. And Kelly Clarkson. That's from 2019, last spring. So that was just within the last year.
That's really nice.
Kendrick Lamar's manager hired me to shoot the meet and greet at Nautica, where people purchase meet and greet passes and then they get a complimentary photo as part of it. So I shot the meet and greet and then shot the show. And yeah, that's a great shot from Nautica. One of my favorite shots from that year. Look at that.
Plus Nomi, an obscure performer who was part of the avant-garde underground theater, music, art scene in New York. And he played actually at the Bank in Akron, of all places.
Wow.
He was also, a sad note, he was known as one of the first prominent people in the arts community in the 80s to die of AIDS.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he died, I think, 84. But this was earlier. That was probably around 80 or so.
Wow. Very nice photo. Korn, early shot there.
Korn, yeah, Blossom.
Wow.
Yeah, they were fun to shoot.
They played Blossom a lot.
I liked Korn a lot.
I liked them better as a live band. I never listened to a lot of their studio stuff, but I really loved seeing them live.
But they were very high energy on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I really
and
liked
when their
them.
first album came out, they toured for like 3 years. They jumped on every tour they possibly could.
Curtis Blow, who I believe was the first hip-hop act to have a gold album. He was sort of the romantic kind of hip-hop artist, and he played on the Swatch Fresh Fest, one I think may have been the first major hip-hop tour. It came to Music Hall in the early, or Public Hall, excuse me, in the early 80s.
I had a handful of Korn photos that were in last night's metal thing. So if you're a Korn fan, you could check that out from yesterday. There's some additional later photos from Korn. Curtis Blow, nice shots there.
Blow again. Leif Garrett, who was a big teen idol for like about a minute in the 70s.
That was longer than that.
But during that period when he was big, and it was very short, I mean, it was a year or two. Yeah, the radio stations brought him all the time for a March of Dimes walkathon, or I saw him at a promotion at SeaWorld.
He was huge.
He was, and you could see all the girls, all the fans there. They had to win a date with Leif Garrett, and he was kind of a jerk. He was a 17-year-old boy who had all this attention lavished on him. It didn't do him much good. That is at SeaWorld.
That's a nice shot there with the crowd.
Yeah, that's
from the stage.
Yeah.
We move on from Leif to Lil Wayne. That comes from the Q 2019. Another one of the shows from last year in the middle of the summer, I think in July. Very cool shot there. That's from the soundboard. Linkin Park, wow.
I loved that band too. I mean, they really had that, vocal rap kind of thing developed to a really high level. A lot of bands were trying it, but they did it better than anyone.
Where's that from?
That was Blossom.
Nice shot.
And alas, Chester Bennington is another one who came to a very sad end.
Yeah, very, very sad. Melba
Moore. She performed she was a huge soul singer. And she still performs, I think. That was actually Peabody's Down Under, and that show was particularly memorable to me because as I was driving down there, I heard on the radio that Marvin Gaye had died.
Wow.
He'd been killed. And so that really impacted her show because, of course, Marvin Gaye was like a god in the soul community. So she dedicated her show that night to Marvin Gaye.
Well, very nice.
Oh, that's crazy.
From Melba to Miley. That's from Columbus. I went down to Columbus in 2014, I believe the Schottenstein Center, and I almost didn't go because it was only 2 songs, and I'm thinking I'm going to drive 4 hours round trip to shoot 6 minutes, you know. But I went down there anyway because I just really wanted Miley shots for my portfolio. And it turned out that this was the last show she did on the tour. They canceled the rest of the tour because she went into the hospital, and she supposedly had a reaction to, you know, nasal spray, which... who knows if that's true or not. But she canceled the rest of the tour, and it was big media news back then, and everybody wanted photos from that last show. So I was really, really glad that I drove 4 hours to shoot 7 minutes. And I really got a dynamic, diverse set of photos, and that was one of them. And there's a little more obscene one, but, you know, sitting on top of the car with her marijuana onesie.
Yeah, it's too bad that she really went through this period. Trying to get away from that, that teen image that she had from the TV show.
Oh, she got away from it.
That she went so far the other direction. There are a lot of people who still won't listen to her, even though she's got a very mature and very well-rounded singing style. I mean, she's really above the young singers. Probably has one of the strongest voices.
I agree.
And
she's great.
Vocal delivery. I mean, she really approaches a song with a lot of depth and emotion, but people still think of her as, that girl who swung naked on a wrecking ball.
She's really a great singer.
And so I think,
there's great videos of her performing with Dolly Parton, with Joan Jett on Oprah. She does this thing called the Backyard Sessions. It's great.
Yeah, I know, and I've seen all that, and I go, it was kind of unfortunate that she felt she had to go so far the other direction.
Yeah. Well, we moved down the M's to a performer who's probably one of my least favorite of anybody, Morrissey.
Yeah, but he is God to the people that love him.
Oh my gosh, he really is.
To adolescents going through their late teen crisis, 19-year-olds who feel misunderstood, he is like the only person that understands him. Morrissey, my parents don't understand me, my friends don't understand, but Morrissey knows.
That was from Akron Civic Theater 2015, and unlike other venues, there's just no direction there. At the Q and Blossom, they take you to the stage, they stand there and watch you, you're never unattended.
Yeah.
They just give you the photo pass and go, yeah, go ahead. There was no, by soundboard, no rules or anything, so I went right down in the little pit down there by the stage, and I found out later that he hates having photographers close. And that I was really lucky that he didn't stop the show to yell at me and tell me to get out. So I went down there and got my 3 songs.
Maybe he was more focused on the fact that somebody on the crew had gone to McDonald's and gotten a hamburger.
I thought about like putting meatballs in my pocket and throwing them at him during the show.
He's such an asshole. I remember going to going to a Smith show, and I was literally the only person there not wearing black. It was August, and you walk through the lobby, and everyone's wearing like these little black pants and long black skirts and black jackets, and it was probably 90 degrees, and I'm wearing a pink sundress. I felt really out of place.
I bet he secretly dives into like ribs and sausage gravy and stuff.
I don't know. I don't. I've been a vegetarian for 40 years, but I don't make a big deal out of it.
I bet you he does.
And that's Mother Love Bone. I think that was their one and only tour because Andy, their singer at the right there, was one of Seattle's many heroin overdoses. And of course, Stone Gossard and the guitar player's name.
Jeff Lament?
Jeff Lament, or bass player, excuse me.
Yeah.
They went on to form Pearl Jam.
What a legendary, just influential photo that is of Mother Love Bone at the Agora. That's just incredibly great.
This was at the new Agora in the ballroom there.
I would have loved to have seen that show.
Yeah, they were incredible. I loved them.
My Chemical Romance, that's from 2010 or 2011.
Yeah.
Another show, another picture of them. Check that out.
That's a backstage shot of Nucleus, who were one of the bands on that Swatch Watch Fresh Fest.
Never heard of them. I don't remember them.
Tour. They didn't go on to do much after that.
Where were they from?
Probably New York, because almost every hip hop act was from New York or Philadelphia.
So would that be
then.
early to mid '80s, like on the
early '80s? Yeah.
So they were kind of on the fringe of just beginning the hip hop stuff.
Yeah,
right?
It was like I said. That was probably the first major hip hop tour. And back then, hip hop was very much an East Coast phenomenon. This was before you had West Coast, and you certainly didn't have scenes in places like Atlanta and Chicago the way you do now.
That's a very nice shot. Very cool. Moving on.
New Edition, I think that was at the Richfield Coliseum.
New Kids on the Block, 2017. I think that's from either Blossom or the Q. I don't even remember. They don't look like new kids anymore, though.
No, they don't.
It was a fun show, though, and I tell you, man, those 40-year-old fans, they loved every minute of it.
A lot of fire.
Yeah. Nine Inch Nails, that's from the Q 2013.
Yeah.
OAR, that was from a sold-out show at Nautica back in 2010. Wasn't really familiar with them before this show, but
No,
man, oh man, they're popular.
They're a very kind of faceless band that has a huge fan base.
Right, yep, exactly.
They don't have a strong identity.
Kind of like Coldplay.
Yeah, well, Coldplay's a little more distinctive. OAR is, they're very hard to peg, but the fans that love them just love them to death.
Moving on to One Direction, that was from the Stadium, I believe.
One Direction.
Pretty wild to shoot them, huge stadium like that.
Yeah, Pearl Jam, which is one of my favorite bands.
Nice shot of Eddie Vedder, very nice.
That was at the Q, if that's what it was called at the time, yeah.
Another great shot of Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Another shot of Eddie. Yeah. Did you only shoot them once?
Yes.
A lot of nice, real nice shots.
I did shoot Creed, though, which was the same thing. And there's a great story about John Soder from The Plain Dealer, who I guess it said something rude about them. He basically called them a Pearl Jam cover band. And so they wouldn't give him tickets to the show at the Q. So he stood outside and, reviewed them from the sound coming out of the building. And that's pretty much what they deserved. Oh, Pink. I love Pink. She's just so intense.
Those 2 times I shot Pink were really, really fun.
Yeah, she
just
always
really great shows.
just came up with just great shit that was so much fun.
I remember when she was first doing guest spots on MTV when she was just breaking out. And I even liked her back then, and it wouldn't be typical for me to like an artist of like her, but I really did. I've always liked her. There's another shot that's from nice. 2018. The second time that I shot her. And the Pixies at the Rock Hall?
Rock Hall, I shot that too.
No, that's your shot.
Is that mine?
Yeah, I never shot the Pixies at the Rock Hall.
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask you, what did they play there for?
Just an appearance. I mean, they often have people playing, particularly since they got the stage in the lobby.
Very nice.
They were just playing to play.
Band called Pop Evil. That's from Rock on the Range, I believe, 2012. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Public Image Limited.
Public Image Limited. They played at the Agora. And at the end of the show, and the audience was applauding, and they wanted an encore, and they applauded for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and finally, John Lydon came out of the dressing room with the deli tray and threw everything at the audience and then left.
That was their encore, some baloney.
That was very punk rock.
That's a band called R5, a pop, teeny pop band.
I never even heard of them.
Radiohead, that's from Nautica.
That's like a far end of the spectrum.
2010, 2011, something like that. Yeah, definitely. Love these Ramon shots of yours.
Yeah, the Ramones are always fun. I shot them 5 or 6 times. They played music hall. They played the Agora repeatedly. That's from the Agora. That's Run DMC. They were also on that Swatch Watch Fresh Fest tour. I think they were the headliners, actually. That
was Sheila E. That was from a show, I believe, at the IX Center back in 2016 when she played with The Time. It was an interesting venue and an interesting double bill, but man, it was great. I always loved her, and I loved The Time, so I love both of those shows. Snoop Dogg smoking a joint. How do you not like Snoop smoking a joint?
Well, what else would Snoop Dogg
I've never seen a show like that at Blossom back in 2016. They smoked so much pot on stage. He was just handing joints to the crowd, and there'd be a sea of hands, and they were just lighting joints and handing them into the crowd. In the VIP area, people were smoking pot. Outside at the T-shirt area, there was pot. Everywhere you went, there was just the oxygen was replaced with pot.
If there was not pot smoking, it wouldn't have been a Snoop Dogg show. You would have known it was an imposter.
It was him and Wiz Khalifa, another big pot advocate. I think he even sells his own cannabis products.
Does he really?
Yeah,
Wiz Khalifa does?
Yeah, I think he has his own line of stuff, like grinders and vaporizers and stuff.
He's never been that big here in Cleveland. I think people are still hold his big hit, Eat Black and Yellow, against him because it was about the Steelers. So it's like, that got no airplay here.
Snoop was a fun show, and I just remember seeing all these Cuyahoga Falls cops walking around Blossom, and people were flaunting that they were smoking pot, and the cops, they probably told them not to do anything, and so they were just scowling at everybody smoking pot everywhere. They would have needed
like a police force the size of New York City to deal with that.
It was just great watching the cops scowl at all the pot smokers. That was a very fun show, and Snoop is awesome. His cooking shows are great.
Yeah.
The Stooges.
That was one of the earliest shows that I ever shot. That was actually back in Chicago, where I'm from, before I came here to go to college. It was an all-day rock music festival at the Aragon Ballroom at the end of '69. And they were promoting it as the last rock festival of the decade. This was the same year as Woodstock. And they had, I think Alice Cooper was the headliner. This was before he ever made a record. The Stooges were on the bill, the MC5, SRC, who were also from Detroit, a group from Chicago, or maybe from northern Indiana called Baby Huey and the Babysitters were on the bill. There was a group called Coven. They had a female lead singer who was sort of Janis Joplin-esque. So it was an all-day event. And my sister and I went, and I was starting to just play around with pictures. I had my dad's camera and got that nice one of Iggy.
Wow. So you didn't do like 10 rolls of film like you would have done with all those bands years later,
Oh,
right?
you couldn't. I mean, the film was so expensive. People don't realize this, but you have a 36 exposure roll of film. For black and white, it would be the equivalent of about maybe $20 a day. For 36 color, it was the equivalent of about $80 a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
So you didn't shoot color. And magazines didn't run color back then. Newspapers had no color. And few magazines ran color. So I had, probably 4 rolls of film to shoot all day, which you wouldn't do now.
No, I would have a hard time spacing stuff out like that. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
System of a Down. Great shot.
Are very deep into politics, Armenian rights, and they're funding Armenian rights organizations now that they've got that little battle going with Azerbaijan. They're big on that.
I wanted to shoot them last year, and it was one of the many shows that got canceled.
Yeah, a lot of things did, yeah.
I was really bummed.
Talking Heads at Blossom on the Stop Making Sense tour.
Now, how come you don't remember any other tour, but you remember that one?
Because I've got the pictures of them doing all the Stop Making Sense stuff.
That is a great shot, really great shot.
Yeah.
Nice shot of David Byrne. Taylor Swift, probably one of my top 10 best photos, I would think.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's from the Q 2013. Been a big, really popular photo for me. Sold a lot of them.
Was her guitar plugged in?
No comment.
Okay. But at least she was singing.
That's from a couple years later, 2018, when she played at the stadium. Just mega, mega huge. We were as far away on the floor from the stage as I think you could put somebody without going up into the seats. We were way, way far away. That's another shot from that 2013 show at the Q. That's from 2015, also at the Q. I've shot her 3 times. Then we move into Tech Nine, a show at House of Blues. Pretty wild crowd that night. 2014, I think, was the day.
Yeah.
The Cure, Robert Smith.
Yeah, he was an ugly guy, but
That's not nice.
But their music was very influential. I mean, his look I never really got into.
I was never a fan. When I listened to half a song, I wanted to commit
well,
suicide.
it was that moany, kind of music that adolescents liked because it made them feel validated, very much like the Smiths. Their fans were the same people. That was a jam. They were a much perkier, poppier new wave band. They were sort of on the borderline of punk, but not really. They infused a lot of pop in it, and they were playing the Agora, but this was taken back at the hotel. One
of the bands that I just loved from Purple Rain that I've loved ever since and was really happy to shoot them was The Time.
Yeah,
and that is just the stereotypical Morris Day shot right there.
Yeah, he was great. I shot him earlier than that. But
that was from that show with Sheila E. at the IX Center.
Oh, okay.
Justin Timberlake from 2013. That's also from the Q. Gord Downey, Tragically Hip. That's, I think, his last Cleveland performance.
Yeah.
2015, that was at House of Blues.
And people never understood how big they were in Canada, but I remember hearing from the promoter that when they played a show here at a place like the Odeon or the House of Blues, 50% of the tickets at least were purchased by people from Canada who wouldn't road trip because they never got to see this band in the small venues in Canada. They always played big arenas and stadiums.
I wasn't really familiar with much of them, just besides hearing them on the college radio circuit back when I was, in college. But man, the show was sold out, and their fans were rabid. Really,
yeah,
really
well, they
rabid.
were probably all down from Canada.
That was a great show. Really good show. Another Silhouette. I love Silhouettes.
That's nice.
That's Usher. That's from the Q 2014. Violent Femmes.
Violent Femmes, who were a very quirky late 80s new wave band who had kind of a nerdy rock sound, I guess you'd call it.
Is that from the Agora?
Did they play the Agora? I think it looks more like Peabody's, actually.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure where that was at.
Nice shot. Warren
Warren
Zevon.
And one of the great sardonic singer-songwriters who...
My brother and I were big Warren Zevon fans growing up.
A lot of other people covered his music as well, but I saw him, and I'm not sure where that was at, actually.
Is that Waddy
Maybe
Wachtel in the
music
background?
hall? I think so, yeah.
He's done a lot of work with Stevie Nicks. Really great
he's done a
studio
lot of
session
work with
guitarist.
everybody.
Yeah. I'm a big Waddy Wachtel fan.
Yeah, he's just done work with
Big Warren Zevon fan too. Saw him at the Odeon. There was a really weird show booking at the Odeon. That's a great shot right there. That almost looks like Excitable Boy or something, like 76, 75.
No, it was much later.
Much later? Okay.
Probably 83, 84,
Okay.
85.
Oh, he looks a bit younger there.
Yeah.
And Weird Al.
That was at the Agora, probably in the 90s.
And then I have Weird Al from Kane Park,
That's
2013.
so nice.
Dressed up like Kurt Cobain doing his Nirvana parody.
He was always entertaining.
Another band that I just don't remember.
Houdini, yeah, they were another early hip hop band that played as part of that Swatch Watch Fresh Fest tour.
Okay.
And they were more of, I don't know how you describe their music. Hip hop used to be more fun back then. I mean, they didn't have this dark edge. So, you had groups like, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, who were, almost middle class rock. And then you had, you started to hear people with a more of an edge. And Schoolie D from Philadelphia is often credited with being one of the first gangster performers. And it was in the later 80s that I started to go see people like NWA and Stetsasonic, who had that more street edge. Although you had some of that in the early days of the late 70s when you had bands like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who really had a serious edge to their music. But the bands that were breaking out were more bands like this, who were known for having fun with hip hop.
Do you remember where that was taken?
Yeah, it was backstage at Public Hall.
Oh, Public Hall, okay.
Yeah,
all
of the whole Fresh Fest tour was at Public Hall.
Let me move on to a band that I remember from the early days of MTV that really kind of helped break them a bit, and that's X.
X, who rock critics loved this band. I remember rock critics would call them the greatest band on earth or the only rock band that you need, and they were pretty bad. I heard them at the Variety Theater, and I think Peabody's Down Under. They were ragged. Some of their songs were good. Exene couldn't sing on key to save her life. I mean, she was just not good.
No auto-tune back then.
But rock critics just worshipped the ground they walked on.
Okay, well, that does it for pop and alternative and hip-hop. Thanks for hanging out. Again, all the photos are available for sale. Look in the description of this live stream, also on the Sonic and Iconic Facebook page. You can find links on my website, joekleon.com, where you can purchase photos. All the 1,100 photos that you've seen this week so far are available for purchase from NEO Pro Imaging. Please go there, buy a couple of photos. They'll be shipped directly to you, or you can go pick them up if you don't want to pay shipping. You're helping out photographers. You're helping out a great local printing business, and you can shop from the safety of your home. You don't have to go out to the mall, worry about getting infected or dealing with a bunch of morons. So buy stuff at home. Hang out with us. We'll be back here tomorrow. Another night of photos, our biggest selection of photos, just rock. And we've got everybody from AC/DC to Rush to Robert Plant and everybody in between. A huge lineup of photos tomorrow for rock. And then we wrap it up on Sunday with Cleveland Connected. Anybody that's connected with Cleveland, you'll see them in the gallery, from Joe Walsh to the Pretenders, some bands from Columbus, all kinds of Cleveland Connected bands. And then we'll wrap everything up after the Cleveland Connected photos with part 2 of our Michael Stanley Oral History. Recorded last year at our Reigning Rock Gallery at 78th Street Studios. David Spiro once again takes Michael through just all kinds of different areas of his career. It's almost 2 hours long. It's filled with great stories, all kinds of funny stories. And if you're a Michael Stanley fan, you definitely want to check it out. So we'll see you back here tomorrow once again, 8 p.m. And all of our live streams for the week are going to be archived online and are available. Again, everything about this gallery is at the Sonic and Iconic Facebook page. So we'll see you tomorrow.